everyone, welcome to my channel. I have a couple of trips planned in the upcoming months, and I've been slowly thinking about how I want to pack for those trips. When I pack for those trips, of course, I want to dress appropriately to the kind of activities I'm going to be doing, but also something that I take into consideration is general style of that place that I'm going to. For example, I'm traveling to Denmark in a couple of weeks, and they do femininity in their own very distinct way. It's never too girly, but there are details like the big scrunchie or the big collar that brings femininity to a very oversized outfit. I am extremely inspired by that. And not that I want to look like them or dress like them, but it's just something that I keep in mind every time I travel somewhere. And then it got me thinking, I have lived in a lot of countries in my life, and my style tended to be influenced by the place that I live in, naturally. So I thought I'd walk down the memory lane and kind of show you how each of the places that I lived in influenced my style. Keep in mind that this is spanning more than a decade, so fashion has changed, as well as the kind of things that I like to do has changed. There will be some biases here, but after all, fashion is very personal and subjective, and I'm just here to tell my story. So Toronto, Canada is where I would have considered home for a big chunk of my life. When I think of Canadian fashion, it is functional. Toronto's a very stylish city, but it's also a very professional city. A lot of people wear suits and dress up, especially in the core downtown, but you have to do that during the harsh winters of Canada, where it can last up to 6 months. So it's not uncommon for people to wear snow boots when they're commuting and then switch into something a little bit more professional like heels when they get into the office. So naturally, the fashion that I prescribed to was prioritizing warmth and dryness. Owning a really good down jacket is a must alongside really good snow boots. The one that I have that I still have to this day, even though I no longer live in Canada, is this one from Canada Goose. And it's quite long, and that is just so that it can be as warm as possible. It is arguably the warmest down jacket that I've ever had. I quite feel like a sausage when I wear this because it's so long that it's actually hard to get in and out of cars. But it's also a jacket that doesn't look too sporty. I think it has a bit of a classic look to it for it being a puffer. And to me, that is the epitome of Toronto dressing. How do you inject practicality and still look professional and elevated? Now, inside, I think you can wear wherever you want. I think Toronto style to me does not necessarily have something really unique. It's such a multicultural city, and people tend to dress however they want. There's a lot of acceptance for the way you dress. I remember when I first moved to Canada when I was really young and going to school and seeing kids come to school in pajama pants. And I was so shocked because that's something you would never see in Korea, a culture where the way you dress outside of home is something that people take really seriously. And they would consider wearing pajamas outside really inappropriate, let alone going to school with pajamas on. The teachers would probably find that disrespectful. Whereas in Canada, because there is an acceptance of differences and a need for being practical, people dress however they want. As a working adult in Toronto, obviously I didn't dress as casual, but I think it speaks to how important practical garments are when you're living in a harsh climate like Canada. I did a couple of years in Spain, and I would say the Spanish style varies a lot depending on where you are, but I was in a city called Malaga, which is in the coast of the Mediterranean Sea. This is a very small beachside city. At the time, like when I was in my early 20s, I was going out a lot. So I definitely got influenced by what I saw other women wearing when they would go out. But I've been to Malaga several times since then, more recently. And I would say that the style hasn't changed too much. And what that style is that the women of Malaga, Spain dress up. That is the first city where I got inspired to wear lipstick and do my makeup and paint my nails. Before that, when I was living in Canada, I didn't really care about any of those things. But once I got to Malaga and saw the kind of effort that the women were putting into their hair, makeup, outfit, I felt extremely inspired. The women of Malaga are beautiful and they often wear a full face of makeup. They often wear mini skirts with heels and definitely like a cute top. And I definitely prescribe to that. If I were to mimic what I would wear now if I were living in Malaga with the clothes that I have, it would be something like a mini skirt, maybe heeled boots or just heels, and a pretty top and probably a lot of bronzer. In my experience, the women of Malaga put a lot of value and importance in femininity and looking good. And it's really an inspiring place to be around all these women. The next country that I lived in was in the Netherlands, specifically Amsterdam. Amsterdam is such a unique city because it is, like many European cities, a place where people really care about the way they look. However, the main mode of transportation being a bicycle, you do still need to be somewhat practical. And I say somewhat because the Dutch woman, despite having to ride a bicycle, never let that really stop them from dressing up. I would say at the time that I was there, the formula for a Dutch outfit was sneakers, because of course you are riding a bike or walking on cobblestone streets, so you want good footwear. Some sort of stretchy pants at the time, like stretchy bell bottoms were in, but something comfortable. It could be like honestly loose denim and a pea coat, believe it or not. Of course, if it rained, people would wear appropriate rain gear. But it being a European city and a fashionable city, a lot of people wore pea coats while they were biking. From a North American perspective, it seemed so impractical, but I was honestly admiring the women for not giving up their style and their aesthetic just because they have to go on a bike every day. So naturally, I also wore a lot of pea coats, and I think Netherlands is where my sense of fashion really flourished. I learned that you don't necessarily have to let weather stop you from looking cute, and that you can always adapt your sense of fashion to the activities that you're doing. So I also prescribe to this. I wore a lot of sneakers and loafers. This is a coat that I thrifted from Amsterdam that is honestly a coat that I hope to have for the rest of my life because it is stunning. I think unlike Spain, the Dutch women dress a little bit more casual, but still are somehow able to look so chic, especially on a bicycle. And honestly, I found that impressive. Now that takes us to present day in San Francisco, United States. I'm in California, but it's not quite like what you imagine a California city might be, and that it never really gets that hot, but it also doesn't get ever cold. It is a city full of people working in tech and a city that provides so much nature that most people love hiking and spending their time outdoors. So, having grown my wardrobe collection in Amsterdam with all these beautiful pea coats, I immediately realized that nobody wears pea coats in the city, even though the weather calls for it. And that's because this city is so incredibly casual. It is very common for women and men to be in workout gear all day long because they're often coming from a hike straight to a lunch. They might have a Pilates class after in the afternoon. It is truly a city that cares about being active and staying healthy and being outdoors. Now, it's just my personal thing, but I don't love being in the city with workout gear on. I wear leggings when I'm exercising or hiking, but once I'm in the city, I like to change. And maybe that's me bringing a little bit of that European influence into the city. But I have definitely noticed that my outfits are a lot more casual. So here I continue to wear sneakers majority of the time because there are so many hills. I'm walking a lot. It's a very walkable city. And I really care about layers because the fog can roll in any minute. The sun might shine and make you feel like you're actually living in California for a minute. Those heavy pea coats are just not practical anymore. I much prefer shorter jackets that are really light that I can easily take on and off. And my hat collection has grown so much because I'm trying to protect myself from the California sun. Now, this does not mean that I dress like this every day, of course. I sometimes get dressed up a little bit more. Sometimes I will partake in coming straight from a hike to a brunch where I'm in full workout gear. But this is kind of like my go-to outfit in San Francisco. Much more casual than the Netherlands, and definitely much more casual than Malaga. So I'm curious to hear where you're from and how your current environment influences your style. I have personally loved the evolution of my style, and I think letting your environment influence what you wear is not only practical, but fun as well. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. I'll see you next time.